SummerSlam. It's the biggest part of the summer. It's the biggest blockbuster of the summer. Whatever you want to call it, it's WWE's second biggest, most promoted show of the year. Personally, I think the Royal Rumble is the second biggest show of the year, but I digress. SummerSlam of the past 29 events, we have seen some of the greatest shows and some of the worst shows, having some of the greatest matches and some of the worst matches of all time. 29 events is quite a lot. And just right around the corner is the 30th SummerSlam. And that's insane to think so. Holy crap. So today, I'm going to rank them. This is my top 9 greatest SummerSlams of all time. Why top 9? Well, Brian Zane does top 8. Everybody and their mothers does top 10. And Nostalgia Critic does top 11. Well, I decide I'm one better than Brian Zane, but I'm one lesser than WatchMojo.com. So today, I'm going to rank them the top 9 greatest SummerSlams of all time because I'm originality, bitch. And right now, it's number 9. The very first SummerSlam in 1988 was hosted in Madison Square Garden. And my God, you only have one time to make your first impressions, and first impressions are big. And SummerSlam 88 is a pretty impressive show. You had the Honky Tonk Man get squashed in 25 seconds by the Ultimate Warrior and he ended his 14th month title reign plus in that great 30-second squash match. You had the biggest tag team match you could ever have at the time. The Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks. Oh yeah, when you had the Mega Powers and the Madness meeting the Mania. Pow! In the most manliest handshakes of all time. Forget you, Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie. Ah, Mega Powers, Mega Bucks. It was a huge mega blockbuster of a show. SummerSlam 2005, right smack dab in the ruthless aggression time period. There's a whole lot of good stuff that happened on this show. If you look at the card of SummerSlam 2005, my God, it's the apex of the ruthless aggression. I mean, my God, you had Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio, even though it's for a custody over Dominic in a ladder match, same, it was still a fine match. Chris Jericho giving John Cena one of the finest WWE title matches you're ever going to see. You had The Undertaker and Randy Orton in a great rematch in their very much underrated feud. You had Matt Hardy versus Edge. You even had, of course, Legend versus Icon, Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan. And even though a lot of these matches were very disappointing, honestly, the fact that you had a card like that had a lot of it had a lot of things going for it. Even though some matches were very disappointing, a lot of matches were not. Like I said, Jericho and Cena was very good, as was Taker and Orton. And even though HBK and Hogan was nowhere near as good as it should have been, hey, at least everyone got to laugh their asses off with Shawn Michaels bumping around like a fucking orangutan, like a fucking bouncy ball. You know what I'm talking about? So SummerSlam 2005. The 1992 SummerSlam was hosted in Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 people, the largest attendance by far for any SummerSlam event. This event is just reeking of nostalgia feelings. You had quite possibly, arguably, the greatest match in SummerSlam history in the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith taking on Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. Hell, you even had the Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Macho Man Savage for the WWE Championship in their rematch from WrestleMania 7. Maybe not as good or emotionally invested as that match was, but still a great, spectacular match even still. You had the very much underrated, very out of the box match in Rick Martel versus Shawn Michaels. And the gimmick was if either man hit their opponent in their faces, they would be disqualified. Very neat idea, and they utilized that match, that stipulation, very well. Very well done. Uh, Such a great show overall. LOD's entrance alone makes this show very good. In front of 80,000 people, they need to go back to London in front of Wembley Stadium for a SummerSlam, or hell, fingers crossed for a Wrestle fucking Mania. SummerSlam 1992, such a nostalgia SummerSlam event. As far as moments goes, SummerSlam 1991 boasted some of the greatest, funniest, coolest moments you're ever going to find in any show, period. You had the jailhouse rock match between the Big Boost Man and the Mountie, and the loser has to go to jail. And it would follow the Mountie taking him to jail, having his fingerprints scanned, and all this stuff. You want my finger? There's the finger for you. You had him getting locked up with this gay guy, and it looks like he's about to rape him. That is something you'll never see in today's society, by the way. You had so many fine, so many emotional moments too. You had Virgil in the greatest match he's ever been by far, defeating the $1 million man for his $1 million title. You had Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect in one of the finest Intercontinental title matches of all time. LOD's tag title victory is so cool because it covers they're a triple threat. They're the only team to get the AWA, the NWA, and the WWF Tag Team Championships. Match made in heaven. The wedding between Randy Savage and Ms. Elizabeth. The greatest wedding they've ever had on WWE TV, period. Such a cool SummerSlam to watch. I've seen this SummerSlam so many times. It's one of the very few shows that I really wish I was alive to see and to just fucking love. This show is amazing. I suggest you go on the WWE Network or go on your SummerSlam Anthology DVD set if you still have it, and go watch SummerSlam 1991. You won't regret it. It has some of the best matches and some of the finest, coolest moments you'll ever gonna see. The 2008 SummerSlam had the dream match of a lifetime. Well, actually, maybe not of a lifetime, but definitely a dream match for the time period. John Cena versus Batista for the first time ever. John Cena versus Batista. And at the time, I shitted all over this match. But my God, this match is so damn good. Undertaker versus Edge. Hell in a Cell match. You can't go wrong with these two guys. Such a spectacular Hell in a Cell match. One of my favorite matches of all time, period. CM Punk versus JBL was pretty good World Heavyweight title match. And we get the greatest Great Khali match of all time in his match against Triple H for the WWE Championship. It's actually a pretty solid match. I'm just saying. SummerSlam 2008, you have John Cena versus Batista, an Undertaker, Edge, Hell in a Cell, plus the hottest cover you'll ever see, the hottest poster you'll ever see for any wrestling pay-per-view event, period. You have one of the finest shows of all time. 2008 SummerSlam at number 5. At number 4, we have SummerSlam 2013. just like the poster dictates. SummerSlam 2013, it's a roller coaster of a show. Wrestling fans' emotions were jerked to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. We saw CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar in one of the gruesomest matches of this era. You had ADR, Alberto Del Rio, taking on Christian in such an underrated World Heavyweight title match. And you had John Cena versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship with Triple H as special referee. As I said, we had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. We had Daniel Bryan defeat John Cena clean. One of the few times John Cena would lose cleanly. He captures the WWE Championship. He gets pedigreed by Triple H. And then Randy Orton just slithers on in and captures the WWE Championship by tossing him in his briefcase and dragging all our wrestling fans, all our emotions down to the bottom of the bottomest, all the way to the lowest of the lows. SummerSlam 2013 is one of the finest shows, and it's one of the greatest shows of this era in recent history. SummerSlam 1997. My God, such a show. This is the show that honestly started the Attitude Era, if you really want to think about it. You had Triple H versus Mankind in an epic steel cage match, the finest opener you're ever going to see. Owen Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the Intercontinental Championship. And we had one of the scariest moments of all time where Stone Cold Steve Austin got dropped right on his neck, dropped right on his head, and was paralyzed for 40 seconds. One of the scariest moments of all time. And then we end the show with Undertaker versus Bret Hart in one of my favorite matches, period, with Shawn Michaels as a special referee. The show that really started the Attitude Era, because look at all this stuff. Stone Cold Steve Austin proved that he is the toughest son of a bitch in the world. After this show, D-Generation X started. Because Shawn Michaels accidentally hit The Undertaker in the head with a steel chair shot. That went us into the Hell in a Cell match. And then that brought out Kane, which brought out Kane versus The Undertaker, which the toughest son of a bitch moniker made Stone Cold Steve Austin literally the toughest son of a bitch and made him one of, quite possibly, the greatest superstars of all time. This is the genesis of Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is the genesis of the Attitude Era. SummerSlam 1997, it's one of the greatest shows of all time. And you throw in Ken Shamrock versus Bulldog and so many other good matches on this card. And mwah, such a spectacular show. One of the greatest shows you're going to find, period. The genesis of the Attitude Era, in my opinion. At number 2, 1998. SummerSlam 1998. The Highway to Hell. Wowzers! Bowsers! This was a great card and a great show overall. Hell, even the undercard, such as Owen Hart versus Ken Shamrock in the Lion's Den. Such a good match. You had D'Lo Brown versus Val Venus for the European title. That match probably could have been bad, but because the Attitude Era boasted such an in-depth roster where everybody gave a shit about everybody, that match was just really fucking good. You had the legendary ladder match between The Rock and Triple H for the Intercontinental title. Everyone likes to boast about Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, but in my eyes, Triple H and The Rock at SummerSlam 1998, that is the definitive 1 versus 1 ladder match that there is. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker. That right there, that's one of the biggest main events you could ever have. That's Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, for God's sakes. That is such a spectacular main event. SummerSlam 1998. back in Madison Square Garden. Hey, WWE, I know it costs so much money to rent out, but stop going to the Barclays Center and go to Madison Square Garden for your fucking SummerSlams. Or any pay-per-view for that goddamn matter. Go for Survivor Series. Go for the Rumble. Hell, I know it may be too big for it, but fucking WrestleMania deserves to be back in Madison Square Garden. I know it costs a lot of money, but you got a lot of money, for God's sakes. 1998 SummerSlam. It's in the fucking Attitude Era, the peak of the Attitude Era. It's the greatest pay-per-view right next to Backlash 2000 of the Attitude Era. Most Attitude Era pay-per-views actually suck, but this is the finest show you're going to find in the Attitude Era. Go watch it. I mean, for God's sakes, Stone Cold versus Undertaker. That's the biggest main event you could ever have. Coming up, number one. Number one in the greatest SummerSlam of all time. Coming up. SummerSlam 2002. When I came up with the list of the greatest SummerSlams of all time, the hard part was, where am I going to put this show? Where am I going to put this show? Is this better than this show? Is this show as good as I think it is? So I might have to rewatch it. But SummerSlam 2002, this show was number one by far, and it was so easy to do so. I didn't even have to write everything down that I think that was good. Because guess what? For SummerSlam 2002, everything's fucking good. Everything's good. You had the return of Shawn Michaels, for God's sakes. And everybody was worried, can he still go? Is he still as good as he was? Well, guess what? After 4.5 years of not wrestling, Shawn Michaels is not only as good as he was, but he's even better than he was. The unsanctioned match with him and Triple H, my goodness. It's a top 5 greatest matches of all time in SummerSlam. You had Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam versus Chris Benoit, The Rock versus Brock Lesnar, even Book Dust versus the Un-Americans is good. Even Undertaker versus Test is fucking good. Everything on this card ranges from good to fucking incredible. We see Brock Lesnar becoming the beast that he is today by beating The Rock. We had Shawn Michaels and Triple H. SummerSlam 2002 is not just the greatest SummerSlam of all time, but it's quite possibly the greatest show that the WWE or any wrestling promotion has ever put on, period. This is a WrestleMania caliber show. SummerSlam 2002. It really was the biggest party of the summer. And that concludes it. SummerSlam, like I said, it's the biggest party of the summer. And on August 20th, the 30th SummerSlam will be presented. Is SummerSlam 2017, SummerSlam 30, going to be as good as 2002 or as good as 1988? Who knows where SummerSlam 17 is going to be on? It could be one of the greatest shows. It could be one of the worst shows. Hell, it could be smack dab right in the middle. However, just sit back and enjoy the show. SummerSlam, it's the biggest party this summer. And that was my top 9 greatest SummerSlams of all time list. You had so many great shows. Coming up next time on my top 9 list, wow, these shows are amazing. SummerSlam, we have seen some of the worst shows of all time in its history. So coming up next time, I bring you the top 9 worst SummerSlams of all time. Stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for more 1998 Year in Review with me, Daniel Rock 08. So like, comment, and subscribe, bitches.